Welcome everyone. My name is Inigo Cruz. I'm speaking on behalf of Just Hacemos Europeos team. We are here to conduct a new webinar on the latest EPSO competition, the World for Scientific Research Administrators. So plenty of profiles, plenty of opportunities, and also new test. So probably you're wondering, what is this about? How can do I meet the criteria? And am I eligible for this competition or not? Or how can I do it? When do you start? When is going to happen the exams? And we'll see also that as well. Plenty of the questions that you have in your mind, we will try to answer them today. And if you have to disconnect or you arrive late to this webinar, don't worry. Session is being recorded and will be uploaded into our YouTube channel, as well as the presentation will be available for you. So you don't need to do screenshots or take notes all the time. Everything will be available for you afterwards. On that part, feel reassured. Okay, so let's start the menu for today. How we are going to do it? Okay, so first things first, overview of the call. Generally, as we think are important to you to be aware of. Probably you are already, so that will be an excellent sign. And if you didn't, well, now that's why you are here. Am I eligible? The application, the tips, timeline, all these elements together, we'll try to check them and give you the best information, the best perspective. Then the exam, the test. Let's talk about this new test that I'm not capable of reproducing its name, this specific test for you, but also the written test. We will have a few words about it. And then how can from just Europeos team help you? How can we do our best to assist you not only through this webinar, free webinar that you are participating, but also through our trainings and other activities that we are doing in order to get you successful and to put your name on the reserve list. And then last but not least, your questions, your answers. As I say before, we will spend as much time as needed to answer all your questions at the end of the webinar. So feel reassured that if we can, we will answer all your questions. If you want to know the combination of the next Euro Millions or any other lottery, I'm afraid that we cannot answer that one for sure. But for other questions regarding EPSO competitions, probably we have an answer, a good answer for you. And yes, another warning. Yeah, we will use a lot of screenshots and items extracted from the notice of competition, just because I mean we think that's the best source, and we need to reassure you the information is there. It's true that sometimes it's not easy to read. That's why we are here helping you. But I mean, overall, the information is there. So after this webinar, if you read the notice of competition, you will have the best picture ever about the competition and its requirements. Remind that. Let's go. So the typical mistakes is something that we like to begin with always, because candidates tend to share the fears, to share the issues, or make the same mistakes. We are humans and we tend to step into the same stone, all of us together. So first of all, the confusion between the old and the new model, EPSO model. I'm saying this because this competition for scientific profiles is new in the size, in the number of profiles, but it's not new that there's been EPSO competition for scientists in the past with different criteria, with different tests. That's why this is a new model, this is a new style. So forget it. Forget what you have seen or you have gone through as candidates on previous EPSO competitions. This is a new thing. Because no, in the previous competition they asked me this. Yeah, wait, but the new notice of this competition, are they saying anything about that particular question? No, but they will ask me again. No, if they don't say it on the notice, they won't ask you again. So forget about all competitions. Check the new competition model. Check the new test. This is new. No matter what you knew from the past. I mean, it's useful experience because it's always a selection process, but I mean, the nitty gritty of it, it's new. So be careful with that. Then second, fear of bad CV. I mean, you have the criteria requested by this competition, 7 years of experience. Two, scientific publications. That's perfectly fine. I mean, you don't need to be a Nobel laureate in order to be selected in this competition. You just need two scientific publications and 7 years of relevant experience plus a degree of 3 or more years, and that will be perfectly fine. Don't think that there are too many candidates. At the end, you will depend more on your rights and your wrongs, on the things that you perform well, on the element of avoiding silly mistakes, rather than the quality or the good performance of other candidates. So focus on yourself, focus on doing it right, and your chances will be quite high and excellent. Don't think it's complicated. It's different. Yeah, we need to reset our mind. Maybe we've been part of other selection process, not only EPSO, but national level or international level. And this is another style, something, well, different. Complicated? No, simply different. So dedicate a bit of time, bit of patience. Start now with the application, and you will be perfectly aware of everything. No need to think that it's too much. And procrastination. That's the last but not least of the items. So don't leave it for tomorrow. I mean, today, after this webinar, maybe tomorrow, or after tomorrow, on Friday, you can start with your application, start filling in. You don't have to do it the same afternoon in 1 hour. You can spend several slots, several times to fill in it carefully, paying attention. That's fine, but don't leave it for tomorrow, tomorrow, and then 30 days are gone, and it's the last day to submit your application, and you submit a city application, and then you get disqualified. Not good. Not good. So don't leave it for tomorrow. Start today. Okay, with the say, let's go a little bit more on focus on the competition. Well, you see the different profiles or different fields, 10 in total. Pay attention that we didn't mention the total number of spots offered by the competition. It's 622, if I remember correctly, but we didn't mention it on the slide. Why? Why so? First of all, because you can only select one field. I mean, but wait, I have a research experience in energy science and sustainability, and also in space application and geoinformation technologies. I have 4 publications too on each field, so I could apply to both. Yes, but you can only select one. So select which one suits you better, in which one you think you fit better. Give yourself time to read the characteristics of each profile, Annex 2 and Annex 3, to see where do you feel more at ease or where your CV, your experience fits better. But you can only select one field. Remember that. It's not about the number of spots on each field, because I think chances are more or less equivalent. I don't think that we can expect big differences in the proportion, but the fact that we need to find the right spot for us. And another item that is important, where I'm going to work. Well, according to the notice and what we know and what has been said, GRC is going to be the leading entity or institution to hire the candidates who all of you who will be on the reserve list, meaning that the GRC has different sites, different places where they have offices, like Brussels, Kiel, Karlsruhe, Sevilla, Ispra, Petten. Remember that in Ispra, for instance, is the third place of the European institutions in number of staff working there. There are more than 2,000 people working there. After Luxembourg, is the third place. So it's a huge one. Now, as far as I know, food is good there. So yeah, Italian cuisine. You cannot say no to that. So that's items that you should be aware of it. And also another element, the reserve list gives you the right to be a candidate, not a position. So yeah, it's a bit tricky. We don't know how it's going to be operated afterwards when you are in the reserve list, because this is the new model. No other competition has arrived to the latest part of the publication of the reserve list. So these are part of the uncharted waters of the new process. But still, if you're with us, we will do our best to help you to transform this possibility of being in the reserve list into a real position in the institutions. That's not nothing that you should be worried about at this point. And also, we don't know how long the reserve list will be. Officially, usually they are published for 1 year, 1 year and a half, and they are extended. I think that considering the number of profiles and the different technical specifications required for these positions, this list should be valid for several years. But still, it's a possibility based on our best knowledge at this moment. It's not official information. So, okay, those are some consideration, but some other considerations. Compared to the previous exams or competitions, where there was a pre-selection process, a filtering, a eligibility check, blah blah blah. Now, no, all of you will be invited to the exam. But then if I invite you to the exam, I'm eligible? No, it doesn't mean that. It means that all of you will be invited. It's set in the notice. You will get an invitation for the exam and you will take the exam. Okay. But on the dark side, let's say on the negative side, you won't get any result until the end of the process. Either if you're eligible or not eligible, if you even if you pass or not pass one of the exams, imagine that you unfortunately you don't pass the computer-based test on the verbal, numerical, and abstract reasoning. You fail that part. You will the other two parts won't be reviewed, won't be evaluated, but you won't get any result or any communication until the end of the process. So be patient. This is going to be a long process since the day you take the exam until the day you get the results, and no news in the meantime. This being said, and also there will be two eligibility checks. In previous competitions, that was something that was not very common. But now it's been said quite clearly. First of all, a first eligibility check. They will go through your application just to confirm that you have the two publications, research publications or scientific peer review publications. You have the relevant experience, the 7 years of professional experience. That's it. They won't go farther than that. I mean, the moment they say, okay, candidate has 14, oh yes, 14, more than 7, fine. Two publications, yes, all the details, fine, next. So it will be a fast checking on that part to be sure that you fulfill the criteria first eligibility. Okay. Then this will be taking place while the exams have been done and the corrections start. So they will be more or less in parallel. They haven't been more specific on the steps of the process. As you see, the initial eligibility check will be notified to the candidates at the end of the competition. So be patient. And second eligibility check, the final one against your documents, the documents that you have to upload before 18th of February, will be done once they are preparing or drafting the reserve list. So they got more or less the candidates and they say, okay, this first candidate got a high score, everything is fine, let's check. Candidate said that has two specific publication research, let me check on the system. Yes, the documents are fine. And the 7 years of working experience, yeah, contractors here, pay slips are here, all good. They will check against the documents. That will be the second check in the process, and then finally all of you will get the results on a document, and then the reserve list will be published afterwards. Remember that you have the right to not get published your name on a reserve list because this is a public information. Alex, I see. If you have no publication, no waste of time on this competition. I'm afraid so, because this is a criteria that is absolute. Same as you don't have 7 years of working experience. Imagine you started to work last year and you already got the two publications, but you only got 1 year, 2 years of work, professional experience. You're out. I'm afraid the criteria is 7 years plus two publications. Okay, so yeah, continuing with the overview. So we have the different languages, language one and language two. Wait, language one is English? No, it's one of the 24 official languages of the European Union. Language two is whatever you selected for language one cannot be the same language, but you choose. So can I use Hungarian and Polish? Yes, it's your right. Can I use Spanish and French? Yes, sure. Or English and French? Yes. Or French and English? Yes. Those are possible. French and French? No. Spanish and Spanish? No. That's it. Also, you are required to have a C1 in one of the language and B2 in the other. Up to you to say which one is. Those are the minimum. I mean, but if I'm bilingual because my mother was British and my father was French, fine. C2 in English and French. That's excellent. I mean, if you are above the threshold, that's perfectly fine. Problem is you are below. So you remember that if you are native in one language, you should put C2 in the application form. So that's it. Also remember that despite taking the exam, although the same day, you only get your exam fully review, meaning the written test and the specific test for scientists will be done only if you pass the computer-based test, the reasoning test. Otherwise, it won't be. And once you submitted your application, you cannot change the language or anything else. So that's why we will insist now and later, please check your application carefully before submitting. Don't say, no, I made a mistake. I just clicked to submit by mistake. I didn't want. You have to introduce your password to submit your application. You have to click twice at least to say, do you confirm that you want to submit your application? So it's no longer an easy mistake to be done. Please, guys, check your application. Hey, come on, so heavy again, repeating the same thing. Yeah, sure. But there are so many guys who have made stupid mistakes and they were out because of that. And we don't want you that. We want you inside on the list. Or in the list, your name should be there. That's because you did everything right. It's easy, but it's also easy to make silly mistakes. Mhm. Okay. Then in the application, you will select the languages, language one, language two, the ones I mentioned, but also you will mention which language are you filling in the talent screener and the communication correspondence with EPSO. Up to you. You prefer right to select any of the 24 official languages, but bear in mind, some languages are more popular than others in the sense that, being honest, English, more or less everybody speaks and writes English, but Maltese, Finnish, Estonian, with all due respect, it's a demographic thing that only a few people speak and write these languages. So bear in mind that if you use your right to use minor languages by the number of speakers, it takes longer for the process, and also it may trigger the need to translate your communication, your application, in order to be evaluated. So that's why we tend to recommend to use a majority language, English, French. Nowadays in the institutions, most of the staff English, I would say 100%, but 98% knows English. French, high percentage they use it, but also if you look at German, Spanish, Italian, could be those are they have a big number of readers, speakers, people who understand who are not necessarily native. But for other languages, it's more difficult. So just be careful. Bear that in mind when you're filling in your application. Sometimes it's better maybe to do it ourselves in a popular language, let's say in English, instead of doing in my case would be Spanish as an Spaniard, as I know for sure what I'm writing. I'm drafting the with the right terms. When there are some nuances, some elements that I want to reinforce, especially if we do the translation ourselves, then we expect to others to do it. So that's our general advice with the language. Just bear in mind that human beings will have to read it and to go through the process. So can they read the language? How likely is that they can go through my application or through my talent in a specific language? So that's the question. Okay. And then on the languages, remember B2, C1 minimum. If you imagine that what you see on the screen, Italian B2, 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 and you put the two languages as B2, you can be disqualified. In fact, you will be disqualified because you are not fulfilling the criteria of the languages. That's why minimum one language in C1 and the other in B2. And if you are native, C2, 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 C2. So yes, pay attention to this element is important. On the motivational part, yeah, but do I really have to fill in this part? Do I really need to spend time answering these questions? The answer is yes. But will I get points? Will I score or with these questions? No. But it will help the evaluators to know you better, because when they go through your application to check, maybe they are not understanding some parts, or they are still struggling to see some aspects. They may go read these questions and, no, yeah, now I complete the picture. Now I see why the candidate puts in the experience this part, or mentioning the talent in the articles this. I understand a bit better. So that's why it's always useful to spend a few minutes filling in this part, making a good answer of this. Remember that some questions are more objective. How is your education experience relevant to this particular profile? Just purely fact, experience, and education. In others, it's more about your opinion. Where do you want to apply? Why do you see yourself being part of the European institutions? Um, what is your interest? That's very personal. So that is more subjective. Yeah. Mhm. So, okay, we continue with the application. Now with the experience, professional experience. So I just took the list of items as considered as relevant experience from field number 1. I take advantage to remind everyone I'm not focusing on any specific field or area of this competition. There are 10. Everything I'm saying is valid for all the fields. If I'm using just one concrete example, is because I cannot copy the 10 of them in the presentation. It will take hours. Okay, just for that. But I think that it's understood that all the information we are sharing today is valid for the 10 profiles. Okay, just use it as a general remarks on the application. So the thing is that we need to explain our experience. We need to make them visible that the experience we have match whatever is requested or is listed in the Annex 3 in point B. 2, 1, well, it's 2x because it depends on each field from 1 to 10. And point B, they declare this list 10 points for each field, where they say, in the case of field 1, environmental monitoring modeling, air soil, biodiversity and ecosystem service, assessment modeling biodiversity. So these are the tasks and the elements that you need to identify in your working experience. In the nature of duties mostly, but not only. I mean, you can always balance between the occupation when you describe, I was senior scientist of the project XX dedicated to research on the life of biological systems, blah, blah, blah. I'm inventing. So please. And then the nature, you describe what you have done, listed. Make it clear. At the end, it's not that, but what if I put the nature of the duties above and the occupation below in the sense of at the level of information? If I make that mistake, doesn't matter so much in the sense that it needs to be clear the whole of it. How long have you been working here? 5 years. Fine. Which entity? In the Institute of Research of my country. Fine. What was your position? Okay, I read that here. That was your position. Those are the tasks that you fulfill in that position. Fine. I can understand that these 5 years were relevant for the competition, so you got 5 years added to your experience, to your working experience. Next, okay, another working experience of 4 years. Fine. Also fulfill the criteria to be relevant. Yes. So 5 plus 4, 9. Fine. The candidate is eligible. This kind of thing is what we need. We are not sure about the words, the how to explain it. Just look at Annex 3 and to the Annex 2 as well. In the Annex 2, there's a description of the task for all the profiles or fields, this competition that you expected to perform at the institutions. Maybe you have done it already in your current positions. So use that words, use that elements to explain, get inspiration from there. Okay. It's simple. It's more simple than you may think, but don't try to overcomplicate and follow the instructions. Please don't imagine, think, no, in reality, I want to know what's my opinion about the research, the status of research in the European Union. Have they asked about your opinion? No, but I really imagine that they want to know that. No, they won't. They don't want to know that. They ask you about your experience, about your relevant experience. That's it. Answer the questions. Follow the instructions. Don't imagine the weird things. As simple as that. Because they need to compare thousands of candidates. That's why you need to follow the instructions, because it allows them to put all of you at the same level, in the sense that can I compare the candidate A, candidate B, and candidate C? Yeah, I can compare them. Fill in, it's eligible. It's eligible. No, this one is not eligible because it has only 3 years of working experience. Sorry. That's it. That's for the application and experience, but bit more on that part on the years of experience and the publications, the two publications. So we need minimum 3 years of work, 3 years of degree. But if my degree was 5 years, 4 years, fine, it's above that. Plus 7 years of experience. This time they haven't introduced changes in the sense that, but if my degree is 4 years, do I need 6 years? Or if my degree is 5 years, do I need 5 years? No, it's 3 plus 7. That's it. If you go above this, that's fine. But my degree is 2 years. Sorry, not valid. It must be 3 years. And the list of degrees accepted are identified also in Annex 3, the areas of the degree. Imagine that your degree has a very specific and weird name, but content-wise fits in with the fields specified in the notice. So just explain that. Simple as that. So, and then the two publications, peer review publications. So each publication, it's asking for the author, co-author, contributor, which one was your role, the digital object identifier, and the ISBN codes. All these elements need to be there. Also, in this competition, I think it's quite relevant to remind all of you that if you got a doctorate, a PhD, it's considered up to 3 years of working experience. Meaning, but my PhD took me only 2 years, so it's 2 years. But my PhD took me 4 years, so it's 3 years. The notice is clear on that part. It's in Annex 1, by the way, and you were wondering. And also for the publications, remember about the codes. Also, the notice is quite specific on the codes in the sense that they mention the big areas, and then there are sub areas, sub chapters for the area of the document. So it's perfectly fine. But my publications are about engineering. So 1502, they are two publications. Yes, they fall into chemical engineering. So if your profile, your field in the notice includes this reference 1500, that means 1500, 1502, it's in. So that's perfectly fine. Yeah. Talking a bit more about the experience and how to count it, just to give you a bit more overview. So let's choose two candidates, random candidates. Candidate 1, 3 years degree, graduated in 2011, and then since 2011 to 2015 has done the PhD, the doctorate studies, and then from 2016 to 2024, working. So this candidate will be considered like 11 years working experience is eligible. But wait, the PhD was 4 years. Yes, but as I say, only 3 years count. Plus 8 years of working experience, 11 years. Perfectly fine. It's above 7. That's fine. The moment you get 7 years plus 1 day, you are in, or 7 years up. And it counts until the day you submit your application. So imagine that you are right on the limit by a few days, but still, if you submit your application before the deadline, you get in. Wait these few days to be sure that you have the 7 years. A second candidate is 4 years degree. Oh, much better, right? It's the same. 3 years is the criteria. 4 years, fine. Then from 2017 to 2021, that's his doctorate or PhD studies and so on. Okay, 4 years. Still, it counts like 3. But then we see that at the same time that the candidate was doing the doctorate studies, got a working experience. Sometimes there is an overlap in the years. They cannot be counted twice. We need to be clear on that part. So they can only be counted once. Okay, so in this case will be 3 plus 3. Depends how when the year starts and the deadlines. Could we get into the 7? Maybe, but in principle like this, it won't because there's an overlap, a clear overlap that we cannot count on that part. Okay, so either we count one or the other. So we need to be sure that we get the 7 years experience plus the 2 articles, the peer review scientific articles in our application. In any case, also there are counting system in the application that will mark you how much time are you covering. About the degrees, remember that, as I mentioned before, it's in the Annex 3. For instance, here I took field 3. The simple reason why I took field 3 is because it fitted quite well for the picture in the slide, not because of any other reason. So we see that for field 3, imagine that I got a degree in, let's say, in law, in European law. Wait, I mean, social science and humanities. I don't know if it fits psychology, statistics. Maybe it's not the right degree for this competition. But if you are in physics, natural science, mathematics, I got geology. Well, it could be. I mean, natural science. You just need to explain. So just focus on the limits of each category, but don't focus too much on the words. Now, my degree doesn't say engineering. My degree says licenciado. wait, well, what's in English? The licenciado is Spanish, so that's fine. That's fine. Okay, but just be sure that your degree fits within the categories set by Annex 3 in your field of preference for this competition. Then relevant experience. That need to be in one of the 10 categories, one or more of the 10 categories that are marked on in the annex. Okay, no, the more the better. No, I already fulfill one, so I put one line and that's it. No, you've done more, specified, because sometimes they use it as a criteria to count 100% or less percent of the accounted experience. Imagine you say, no, during the last 10 years, I've been doing just cybersecurity strategies and standards. Fine. Something else? No, that's it. Maybe it's a bit too low, and they say, no, and then instead of 10 years, I will count you as 5. It's also explained in the Annex 1 how they count these things, how they reduce the percentage. So check that part, but let's be sure that you put all the information in the application. So they can say, oh no, the candidate has done development of cybersecurity strategies and assessing the security of critical infrastructure and research in cyber and hybrid threat intelligence. I've done these 3 items in my work experience. Perfect. 100% time counted, 10 years, you got more than enough. Okay. So that was it. About the publications, as I say before, just to show you again the perspective. So in the case of field 3, they mention these areas, 1400, 1700, 1800, and so on, if your publications are within these areas. But my publication is 20, it's in decision science, 1801. Where do I fit? For God's sake, you fit in decision science, that's perfectly fine. In the yellow frame, it's specified, we took it from the notice. So hopefully it's clear. And then it comes to a very important thing, one thing that you absolutely need to bear in mind. And it's the talent screener. Yeah, the talent screener. Probably those of you who have been part of candidates of all competition or the previous model, you remember the talent screener. So painful that you have to work a lot of hours on it, filling it. No, it's not like this. I mean, they call it talent screener because they didn't want to redo the template of the application form. But the truth is that it looks like this. So the application calls talent screener, but it's the form to introduce the info on your publications. As simple as that. If you check the heading, it's called talent screener, but it's referred to this competition, and it's clear this where you have to put the information about your peer review articles. And you see that if there are 6 questions in reality only, and it's basically saying yes, no, and the details. But remember that the 3 first questions are for the Article 1 and the other 3 for the Article 2. Then you have to divide the information. This is very important, like this. We made a capture of the Article 1. So you get a preview publication. You say yes. And you see that the question 1A, 2A, and 3A is the same. But then we go to the B that is asking for some pieces, different pieces. Please insert author's year, author, co-author, or your presence in the article. It's already specified before. You need to be an author, co-author, or contributor to the article. So just introduce that information, the title, the journal and volume in this order. So, but what if I put the title first and then the authors? Wrong. Need to be the other way around. Please, no other text should be added here. So just follow the rules. No, I put all the information on the question number 1. The 2 and the 3rd are not needed because it's already on the 1. You're out. It's as simple as that. You are not fulfilling the criteria. You are not fulfilling the rules. You can be disqualified because you haven't followed the rules. No, but this is unfair. EPSO is so mean. Yeah, but EPSO, you can complain about many things, but here we are very clear on how to do things and how to put all the information. So please follow the rules. So the registration number of your article needs to be on question number 2. The science journal classification question number 3. Don't blunder this part. It's very simple. It's very easy to do it, but also it's very easy to not pay attention and make a big mistake that can cost us dear. We don't want that. So please, people, follow the rules. This talent is an easy one. Just if you got the articles, you got information, and that's fine. Yes, but please. Hope this is clear and raise your attention on this issue. And then final item is the eligibility. You will check the eligibility that you fulfill all the elements. Yes. I'm suitable. I'm done the military service. Blah blah blah, and you confirm your eligibility and you submit your application. Okay. So far, so good, right? But remember these items. You take your application seriously. This is not a simple process. This is the first test. Your application can disqualify you, can get rid of your opportunities in this competition. So that's why you need to take it very seriously. And you're as good as your explanation. It doesn't matter if you got 30 years of working experience. If you don't explain correctly, if you don't follow the rules to fill in your application, you are out. They don't care. But I have 30 years. Yes. Did you explain? No, you're out. I got 7 years, one day. Did you explain? Yes, you're in. Fine. So remember that. Some tips about information, how to put information. Don't write long sentences. I mean, if you need to explain, if you need to detail something, short sentences. Average sentence 15, 20 words, but even if it's shorter, it's perfectly fine. But for God's sake, don't go beyond 25 words in one sentence. One main idea per sentence or per paragraph. In that sense, now we are talking about only the application, so it's one sentence. Use bullet points list. Even if you cannot edit the text in the boxes of your application, you can always use the signs of the keyboard, the plus to create a list or something to make visually accessible. Remember, they're human beings, no machines reading the text. If you think that the information is relevant, put it at the beginning or at the end. Don't try to put all the key elements right in the middle of something. They won't see it. Make life easy to the readers. And use the same vocabulary as in the notice. Annex 2 and Annex 3 are key. And also, because we get many questions, but how do I prove? How do I give evidence about my jobs, about my working experience, and so on? In the Annex 1, they describe it quite well. It need to be paid experience. It need to be official documents from the companies, pay slips, social security records. I know that sometimes in the reading the notice can sound scary, can sound too complicated. Where I'm going to find all this, but based on our experience, it's under the criteria of the board, but based on our experience, EPSO competitions and the boards of each EPSO competition tend to be quite understanding. They, not soft, but at least they try to be flexible in the capacity of the candidates to provide evidence. So they tend to check the consistency of the documents. I mean, if you have a contract saying that you've been working 10 years as a translator and you're claiming that that's the contract of being working as a researcher in biology in a high research institute, well, maybe you need to provide some more information because something is odd. But you got a contract as a researcher, the entity is right, the documents, the specification of your research, the peer review articles are there. So all that creates the picture that seems that the candidate really filling all the criteria, despite that maybe you don't have a document that is listing in very detail every line, each one of the tasks that you have performed in your work. Fine, but still everything else is pointing in the same direction, is consistent. So there's some flexibility, but for God's sake, read the Annex 1 and follow the rules regarding the documents that you can provide. It's clear. And remember that any official document in your home country, if it's a member state of the European Union, is valid for this competition and EPSO accepted. If you're from UK, check the small letter because it's not longer valid. You need legalization. You need to transpose it to a member state. So, but for the 27 member states, it's perfectly valid. If it's from a third member state, then you need to make it legal in one member state to be accepted. That for legal documents. I mean, for payslip and contract, that's a different thing. Okay, that's general tips about the application, the talent skinner, the articles. But yeah, you're wondering about how long it's going to take and when I'm going to have the exam. What can I expect, right? Yeah, I'm sure that you do. So let's see. Let's see the timeline indicative. This is based on what EPSO has shared. and or experience. So this is not granting by law. It's just a simple interpretation of the information available. So what we can expect. So until the 10th of December, and this is official, the deadline to submit the application. Fine. To upload the documents, you have until the 18th of February. By the way, it's to upload the documents and to link them. Remember that the submission of the documents is a two-step process. Upload and link. Many candidates forget the second. So don't forget that. Upload and link in your profile. If you have already uploaded documents for other competitions, you just need to link them. But still, it's a two-step process. So then the exam, when can we wait the exam? So far, considering the other competition in motion and to avoid overlaps and what we know, we think that the most likely scenario will be spring 2025. So March, April next year will be the exam of the competition. Could be early March, for instance, or well, if that will be still at the end of winter, fine, but you got the idea. So think about 1st of March as a point of reference for your exam. So you still got plenty of time to prepare yourselves, yes, but don't leave it for tomorrow. And the reserve list for the interviews after summer 2025. We don't think that considering the amount of candidates that can be here and the amount of spots, even if it's a ratio of 1-to-1 candidates per spot, will require a long time to correct the written test, review the applications. So it's very unlikely that before the summer break, you will get the results. I mean, so expect it after the summer, September, October, autumn 2025 is the right moment, probably. And then the evaluation or interviews by the institution interested in hiring you, that will come after. And those are uncharted waters that we will navigate when the moment comes. So, but for the moment, we need to put our name on the reserve list. And so far is what we have done, following all the process and the steps for the application and wait for the exam. I haven't talked about the exam, right? About this field-related scientific test questionnaire and the written test. I haven't spoken about them. So probably you are wondering about. Let's go. Let's go for it. So, what is the notice saying about the exams? So it's clear that your exam will be scored on 50 points, 40 from the FRSTQ test, and 10 from the written test. The funny thing or the interesting part is that you need 5 out of 10 in the written test, while for the field related scientific test, you only need to score points. It's from 0 to 40. Not bad, right? So, but remember, if you fail the computer-based test, the verbal, numerical, and abstract reasoning, you won't get scored the other part. The results will be only notified if you pass. So just be careful because I'm sure, and I bet you know, well, if somebody give us €1 every time somebody ask about when I'm going to have the results, or why don't they inform us about my results in the verbal, numerical, and abstract reasoning before the other test? We will be rich by now. So in the sense that be patient. This time the notice is quite clear. It's true that in previous notices of competition, it was part of the Annex 1, the reference, and it was a small one. But here, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I read it twice at least to inform you that only at the end, twice or 3 times even. So they've been quite sharp and clear that wait until the end, just like that. Sorry, we need to be patient. There is no other way. Nobody said that it's going to be fast, this process. Okay, about the computer-based test, about the verbal, numerical, and abstract reasoning, business as usual. Nothing new. 10 of 20 for the verbal, numerical and abstract combined, 10 out of 20. If you want to know more about this reasoning test and about the type of exercise, we invite you to visit our YouTube channel. And there we also put some examples for practice. So we won't spend time today. We did already, and we invite you to check on these items. And we're moving to the interesting part, scientific researchers competition and the field-related short test questionnaire. Sorry, short test questionnaire, not scientific. Whatever. I think that if they try to invent a more complicated name, it wouldn't be. Bravo for EPSO, great name. I mean, it's completely soup of letters. Okay, fine. The important thing is this is what you have on the screen is the information shared by EPSO in mid-October about the new test. And the good thing and the good news is that with the information that we got from the notice, it's aligned with this ad published by EPSO. So good. We confirm this in exam on competencies. It's not about knowledge per se. It's not about what do I know about the fusion and fission, and under which condition the fusion, nuclear fusion would be suitable if we are considering magnetic trap. Nobody cares about that on this part of the selection process. They will care later, but before hiring you. But nobody cares about that at this moment. It's about how do you do things. Competency is about what would you do if you have to do analysis of the results of certain research, or how would you implement an improvement process in strategy for research, for instance. So these things are the kind of question that you may expect on competencies. The insistence on that the example should come from your professional experience. That's why how would you do, or give us an example when you have done the following. In the in EPSO webpage, they mention 1,500 characters for the answer. So meaning that is quite small, considering that you have only 60 minutes for 10 questions, meaning 6 minutes per question. I think that's fine. It's feasible, but still, you cannot write a lot. From the notice, same thing, 60 minutes, 40 points maximum, 10 questions, language 2, whatever you choose, up to 4 points per questions. So they are quite clearly in the second point, we say candidates are encouraged to use example from prior professional experience when answering this question. So most likely scenario you will question, how would you do the following? What or give us an example on your past experience, but it's more likely how would you do on that sense, because you can combine your professional experience with the scenario introduced by the question itself. Everything aligned with the information that you got in Annex 3 of your past experience, and you can get some inspiration from Annex 2 as well, and the task that you're expected to perform in order to figure it out. That's for this field-related test, but you will have a second written test. That is the written test itself. So meaning it's going to be a long exam. Remember, you will have 1 hour for the computer-based test, for the verbal, numerical, and abstract reasoning, 1 hour, 5 minutes. Then probably you will have a 1 hour, 1 hour and a half break. Then you will have the field-related, 1 hour. Then you will have 1 or 2 hours break again, and then 40 minutes for the written test. So it's been a long day for you. And usually it's starting at 10 a.m. the exams. Don't forget that. So take the day off. And Central European time. If you're working somewhere else that is not continental Europe, Central European time, remember it will be the equivalent hour of the 10 in Central European time. So if it's 10 in Brussels and if you're working in Dublin, it will be 9 a.m. for you. For the written test, simple. I mean, we already have a beautiful experience from previous competitions, from transport, for the statistics. Nuclear will come soon, and we have seen the type of exam. It's true, it's about writing. It's about, you don't need a specific knowledge, but it's true that they use a document that you are supposed to be a bit more familiar with. So it should facilitate the task. Important, very important here. They say candidate will require to respond to the test, blah, blah, blah. On the documentation related to the area of research, not of your area, no, area of research. So it's generic. All of you will have exactly the same text, the same document. No, but wait, no, my field will be a different one. Why? Because I say so, because my field is special. No, wait, the notice is clear. It's related to the area of research. It's for all the same. So, and it will be available around 2 weeks before the exam. On that part, that should be clear. Please don't expect any particularities. No, because my field is field number 2 and my field is number 4. It cannot be the same. It will be. Notice is clear. It's about communication. It's not about knowledge. The fact that it's about area of research is makes simpler, more accessible, more familiar, but that's it. And it's not about language. It's about how you structure, how you do some things that are the following, because this is the information given by EPSO on the written test, the anchor, the famous anchor. So, but should I write a structure? No, it's how you structure your text. It's not. That's the first thing. It's like, what do you mean write concisely? Well, if you can say an idea, you can express an idea in one sentence. You don't need a full paragraph to that. So go to the point. You don't need to add blah blah. You need to be focused, straight, aligned, well structured. So make it understandable. Not because you make a thick paragraph with a lot of jargon, it's better. No, it need to be understood by anyone reading the text. That's clear. You adapt to the audience. If they are giving you an audience, you are writing a text for general public. So forget about being too technical. They won't understand. Or you're writing to a text for colleagues. Yeah, at your level of knowledge, you can use more technicalities, depends, and use the information provided to deal with the assignment. Yeah, if you get a document about the future of research in the European Union, they ask you about summarize the future of research in the European Union, and you just write an article about your opinions on the future of research, and you ignore the document, you're out. You are not using the information given. They are not expecting that. They are expecting that you use the document. That's why you don't need knowledge. You just need writing analysis capacity to go through the document given, fine, but you don't need to invent anything. You just need to use whatever you were given. Simple, yes. The only negative outcome is that you need to practice. That's what we always recommend in order to tackle both tests, the field related and the written test. Last but not least, a bit overview. This is the EPSO web page for the 10 profiles. We see the dates: 10th deadline to submit, the 10th of December, 18th of February to submit to upload the documents, upload and link. They say upload, but it's upload and link. Um, they mark the reasoning test or the test in general after the uploading, so we can expect end of February, unlikely, but you never know. Most likely March. That's why we say spring, but yeah, 1st of March is technically not a spring yet, so please bear with me. And then 622 successful candidates, but it depends on each one of your profile or field. It's not that there will be 622 in total, but its list, its field will be their number, and in total will be 622. They cannot put the head profile because otherwise the image will be too big. So let's not forget this. Let's continue with the last point from my side. As what else can GSM Surface do for you besides what we have done today, trying to explain, help you to put some light on the application of this competition? Well, we have plenty of free webinars and materials. It's all in our YouTube channel, in our blog, and in our social media. Don't forget that also we have a WhatsApp and Telegram channel where we upload all the information available. Of course, we do regularly CBT, verbal, numeric, and abstract reasoning trainings in English and in Spanish. Also, if you're interested in other competitions for the multiple choice and for the case study or the written, and for your competition in particular, we will open new trainings next week for the field-related part and the written test. So specific for you, for all of you. So be sure of that. And then the application review. If you need any help with the application, we are glad to assist you on that part. And of course, here you have the links to our social media that we will share with you in the presentation. So that's perfectly fine. You can look for us already, and don't forget to click on like. You know how is the algorithm sometimes so nasty that it's always appreciated if you click on the like to say thank you for what we have done today. But the important thing is that we want you, and we want to answer your questions. So I'm moving now to read the chat as well, and also feel free to ask. Yeah, if I haven't replied to any one of your questions on the chat, but just give me 1 second that I go through them. Oops, sorry. Does do the chapters in books count? Does the publication of a book based on research count as a publication? Does the paper on peer review journal count? Well, and as Adina replied, the mention is in the not a competition, but still also not sure how the ISBN is considering this competition in relation to all science journal classification codes. Yeah, I know that for science and the chapters can be tricky, so check with EPSO. Check on that part, because it's true that the notice is not fully clear on when it's not a pure peer review. Yeah, true. If the spinning question matches for both field 4 and field, however, the publication only belongs to field 10, it means that we must apply to, yes, if your publications are only matched for one field, despite that other elements can be part of all different fields, go to the one that you fulfill all the criteria. When it's partial, don't go there because you will get disqualified. Sorry. With EPSO, I mean, to check with EPSO, they have in their webpage, they have a form to contact them. In principle, it's also listed in the notice of competition, is referred to the link directly to that. If you cannot find us, write us and we will share it with you. But it's there. It's a form where you can submit your question and the languages that you want to get the answer. My suggestion, whenever it's possible, do it in English so you can be sure that they will answer as soon as possible. For other languages, it may take longer. In the meantime, Rocio, I see that you raised your hand.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, well, thank you for the presentation, Inigo. It was very nice. I have one question regarding the documents that we would have to upload. Like, for example, the working contracts or payslips. If I have like some in Spanish, some, for example, I work in Belgium, so I have them in Dutch. Do they need to be translated to English
No.
or no? It's okay, whatever the language they are written, as long as it's EU space.
Yes. Only if you need to explain something, if you really need to add some extra explanation because in the documents is not fully clear,
Okay.
I would suggest to do the drafting note in English. But for the rest of the comments, can be in any of the 24 official languages.
Okay, perfect. And another related or similar question, like for many, like for example, my PhD title, it says when I got it, but it doesn't say when I started. Do I need this kind of document? Do I need to contact maybe my university to give me like a certificate of when I started and I
Probably
finished?
yes, because
Okay,
in order to be sure that you get the 3 years of working experience.
yeah, okay, okay. But there must be another document, but in the title it doesn't say when I started.
Yeah, but maybe if you did some training for the PhD or something like that,
Mhm.
or some scholarship contract for the PhD,
Yeah.
maybe something like that will be
Okay.
good.
Ah, indeed, yes, that can work. Perfect. And the last one, sorry, only one more. If like I'm invited for the CBT test for another in the context of another competition in November, I will have to pass it again for this.
Yes,
Okay.
that's why I say no, because I mean they're
I already
independent.
saw you know this, so okay.
Yeah, they're independent, so you have to take them again. It's
Okay.
tested only for the contract agents are equivalent and are accepted if you have done it before, but
Perfect.
not in the competitions.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you very
good.
much.
My pleasure. And let me go through the chat. If you're selected, have any institution of the European Commission show interest for you, or do you have a direct employment if you are taken? As I mentioned before, being on the reserve list doesn't entitle you to have a job. It means that you are eligible to become an officer, a research officer of the European Commission or the Commission because you are GRC. So that's it. So still you will have to find your place, but there will be only 60, 70, 50 people eligible on that reserve list. So the competition becomes quite narrow. The marine. Is there some place to find all the science journal classification codes? Check on Google. I cannot recall any by heart, but I know it's what I did myself to check all the codes to bring you the examples. There's a plug. Marine, sorry. On the is the choice of languages for testing has any implication on final outcome of selections? In principle, no. The only one thing that it has an implication: time. It can take longer. Because imagine that you decide to following your right to do the exam, the writing part in minority language. when they are not so, maybe they are not reviewers, assessors in that language, and they have to translate, or they need to really find someone who can do it on that language. So it may take time. While if you do it in English, French, German, Spanish, Italian, it's very likely that you will have assessors on those languages. But in other languages, it becomes a bit more trickier. So that's why it affects time. But chances should be exactly the same. So no, following one language or another, it doesn't affect your chances. Journalistic publication on that matter, I don't think so that journalistic publication will be accepted because they are not peer review. They're clear. They need to be peer review. So that's what we call scientific publications. So an article on the press, no, it's not valid. Christy, is there any benefit apply even if you know you miss one publication? Gets practice. You say it. For the second language, we need a certification to prove the level. No, you don't need any certification for the languages. You just need to declare them on the application. You are accepting when you submit your application that you are telling the truth. And through the test, it will be evaluated. I mean, if you say that you're bilingual in English, let's say, and you take the writing in English and you really do a mess because you cannot really write in English, well, you're really disqualified by yourself. So no certification is needed for the languages. For the language too, and the field related, if we work in English and publication are in English, it's recommended to take in English language too rather than native language. I mean, considering it's not a language level exam, I'm talking now on personal level. I'm used to work in English. So for me, I prefer to do the writing and all the things in English than in Spanish, for example, because I focus better. I mean, for me, English is a working language, so I put my mind on it, and I think I can do a better job from the perspective of what is required than using my native language, and I will do the verbal, numeric, and abstract reasoning probably in my native language, English, Spanish instead of English. So that will be my personal selection. But up to you how you feel more at ease, comfortable. Don't think again. It's not about language level. So they don't care if you are Shakespeare or Joseph Conrad by writing in English or in any of the tests because you don't have to. You just need to be understandable. And you have native language, you feel more comfortable, you feel more at ease, do it in your native language. Just see how you feel yourselves. You still have 34 days to select the languages, so up to you. But try, practice a little bit this coming weeks and see which one you feel more comfortable in order to select the right one for you, of course. Okay, let me see the other messages on the chat. Do you have to be a first author for both publications? No, based on the notice of competition, I think that you can be author, co-author, or contributor. I think there were 3 categories. I'm just doing by heart. Sorry, I have a copy of the notice, but I don't know if I have it here. Let me see. Author, co-author, or contributor, yes. It's in the Annex 3.1. So, and years of technical report science for policy reports will be qualified as peer review. I have my doubts that they are peer review documents this year's technical reports. I mean, they're reviewed to some extent. Maybe they have a reference number, but I'm not sure that they're peer review. So you can always check with EPSO to reconfirm that, but I wouldn't say so. I saw that there was a hand raised. Probably was Alessandro. Maybe it's already solved. So, any other question or
Yes,
comment?
it was me. It was for Lorenzo's question. Yeah, regarding GRC publications. Some of them are peer reviewed. The point is, how do you demonstrate that?
I guess that it will be at the end of the episode, but on that case, they are familiar with them, and if they are peer reviewed, you just put the reference, they will check, and they will have to accept. So that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. Otherwise, we should send a message to EPSO, not to request on the specific case.
Yes, and consider that many of you you have a PhD already, and probably you have more than two publications. Just select two publications that are clearly in the field of the competition that really fulfill all the criteria. You don't have to select the highest impact publication that you got. You have to select the ones two that really fill in all the criteria requested, and that's perfectly fine. Because if you have 20, you don't have a space or capacity to put the 20. You only have to put two. Doesn't matter if you have two, 4, or 20. So just select the ones that are more clear, that they fill in all the criteria, and that's it. I mean, if you have 20, in ones I'm co-author, in others I'm contributor, and in two of them I'm author, and they fill in the criteria, maybe I will go for those where I'm an author, because it's I have full control of the article, and it's easier to put all the evidence. So just be smart on that part.
Okay.
Okay, more questions, more comments? Otherwise, that's it for today. Remember, we will upload the video in our YouTube channel by the end of this week. Probably we will send you an email later when the video is uploaded, and also indicating where you can download the PowerPoint of today's presentation. Okay, and also we will inform you, and also in our social channels, social media channels, about the new trainings for this competition that will be available quite soon. Okay, so this is it for the moment, people. Thanks a lot, everyone. Hopefully, see you soon and see your names on the reserve list.